Hello, everyone. Welcome to our channel with 𝗬𝗲𝗿𝗀𝗃. How exciting to be here with you guys today. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. So we send you a lot of smiles, a lot of light. And today we are here to talk about a very special topic, faith. And we, the Sembradores de Luz, just to let you know if you're curious, we are a group of volunteers 100% virtual. And what do? We create resources, material for parents, educators, children, youth, to help you with some knowledge and inspiration on spiritual and moral topics. Most of them also based on Spiritist teachings, but there is a lot of things there that's worth it to check. So just go to www.sembradoresluz.org. So it's time to start. And today we have two guests. Hello. We are very happy that you are.
I cannot hear you anymore, Bernadette.
Yes. And I would like for you, starting with Júlio, just to introduce yourself a little bit so we get to know you. Many of us already know you guys, you both, but we never know. So, Júlio, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, hello everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Júlio. I am part of the Spiritist movement since I'm 13 years old here in the US. And I'm very thankful to this philosophy because it has helped me tremendously with every aspect of my life, my wife, my kids, my profession. And it's my passion to disseminate so others can reap the benefit of having this knowledge as well.
Thank you. Now, Charles, tell us a little bit
Yes,
about
hello. Thank you also for having me. I'm fine, hoping the same for everyone connected with us. And so my name is Charles Kempf. I'm French. I'm Spiritist since 1985, so means something like almost 40 years ago. And studying Kardec, was in Brazil, came back to France, and working in disseminating this wonderful concept, body of knowledge, who made me so good, feel good, and have a purpose of life and whatever, that of course it's a big willing we have all to share it.
Thank you. We are very happy we're here today. And if you want to know me, I'm just Bernadette Leal here in San Diego, California. 10 o'clock in the morning, just had breakfast and ready for our conversation. So the topic today is faith. When faith enters the home, things change. But we hear a lot about faith. Oh, faith can move mountains. Faith like a seed of a mustard seed. And people say, I have faith in you, or you don't have enough faith. You know what? It's a very interesting topic. And before we even start asking our questions and talk more about it, let's have just a general idea what faith is. Is it more than just a simple belief? If you'd like to answer the question, Júlio, for us, and then later, Charles, you can just add your thoughts.
In simple terms, faith is the certainty of a better tomorrow. But obviously, if you look at the English dictionary, you have a much more extensive definition of faith. Now, it's interesting because immediately when people hear the word faith, they associate with religious practice. However, faith is an aspect of our mental capacity because once we believe in something, we can make it real. We can materialize in the physical world, because all achievements of human life begins in our mental mind. And we wouldn't even try if we didn't believe that it was possible. So faith begins in our mind, the certainty that something is possible. And it's interesting, Bernadette, because once again, people associate faith only with religious practice. But when scientists begin doing experiments to see the efficacy of medication, they went into many troubles. Reason being is because if the patient receiving the medication believed that the medication will heal the person, the scientists did not know if it was the belief in the power of the medication or if it was the medication itself. So in order to rule that out, they began doing an experiment called blind experiments. But then something very interesting happened. They did not solve the problem because whoever was dispensing the medication believed in the power of the medication. So look, this is very interesting. Not only the person receiving the medication, but the person giving the medication altered the results because they believed in the power of medication. So that's when they began the experiments called double-blind experiment. Neither the dispenser knew who was getting the medication or the patient receiving the medication. So that goes to show how powerful our mind is when we believe that something is possible. And that's what we call faith, in short terms, obviously.
I love you brought that scientific part of it, the placebos too, that we have faith. But yes, it goes beyond just the religious thing, the religious aspect of it. What would you like to add anything, Charles?
Yes, I think the definition is clear. Huh? It's not just a religious faith or blind faith, as we usually call it, but it's more general. Huh? When you have a project, or when you have a trial in sports or wherever, if you do not have faith in what you are doing, you much more difficultly will reach this goal you have. Huh? So it's a general sentence, but indeed, and it's the same confusion we have associating faith with religions, like the same when we associate spirituality and religions. And no, okay, the religions had a very important role played in the humanity since humankind is here, huh? But they generally promoted a kind of a blind faith, this religious faith. You must believe it because it's said, because it's written, because the Pope said, because whatever reason, even if you don't understand it. And this is, of course, generating a reaction and then generating this confusion we just highlighted. And the Spiritist body of knowledge, Allan Kardec, introduced a new concept of faith, which is understand first, and then you will believe in it if you want so. And the unshakable faith is the only one which can face reason at every time of the humanity. So a faith which is based on understanding. And when we think a little bit more about this, it's even more deeper than that, because even in science, some things have been investigated and are considered as an evidence. For instance, Big Bang, 15 billion years ago. But is it really proven? We have seen recently with the James Webb observations that there are a lot of anomalies in this concept. So in science, nothing, the absolute proof does not exist. So even in science, when you have, let's say, a convergence of proofs, an accumulation of proofs, you need to have a little bit faith in order to adopt the corresponding hypothesis. So this shows how broad this concept of faith is today, and entering even in some areas where, in fact, outside the mathematics, absolute proof do not exist in science. And there is even this falsifiability criteria, which is one of the characteristics of epistemology or philosophy of science.
Wow, great. And actually, in one of our questions, we're going to go a little deeper of Spiritism, how Spiritism sees faith, and that, unshakable faith, that all that you mentioned about the Kardec. But for people that is still, people that are watching us, and they are spiritual, they don't know much about the Spiritism, and they say, you know what, there's too much going on in the world. I'm having so many challenges. Look what's going on. Look at my family. I'm not feeling good. I'm having problems. And you talk to me about faith. So in this situation, how can faith strengthen and sustain us, especially in those difficult times? That's a big question. And I want to hear that too, because I need sometimes.
It's interesting because it's a kind of paradoxal, isn't it?
Yeah.
You lose the faith because you have a lot of problems. And on another hand, we could consider that you have a lot of problems because maybe you lack a little bit of faith. If you have faith, would have faith in order to face and to solve the problems you are facing, that would, at the opposite, reduce the number of problems. So you see, faith is really something which gives us strength in order to overcome all the difficulties. And again, it's not a question of blind faith. We always say, be curious, give a look to the Spiritist body of knowledge, give a look to the teachings, look if it's rational or not. It made so good to us three here and to so many millions of people around the world, because at least for me, for instance, all these things have been taught to me when I was young in the Catholic religion here in France. But it was the day when you grow up, when you start thinking and looking for reasons and explanations, and you don't get clear answers, you take naturally some distance with this. But Spiritist body of knowledge, when I discovered it, had exactly the opposite effect. Look, now I understand what this means. Now I understand who Jesus was, for instance. Now I understand what is the soul. I see the evidences of the existence of the soul. I see also the evidences, not absolute proof, of course, as I told, but evidences about reincarnation. Jan Stevenson, so many people came and made also a lot of studies around it. So there is a rationale behind what I'm believing, and I'm believing even stronger because I understood it, And this type of faith is much more solid, as I tell, is unshakable, as there's a word that Kardec put on the cover page of the Gospel according to Spiritism. Yeah. And when you have this unshakable force, faith, you see all these problems which are around the world created by selfishness, pride, corruption, and whatever. You understand why this still exists on Earth. You also understand how we can help in order to make these things change and progress. So it's the faith we have through the understanding, observation of phenomenon, and so on, is making such that we are getting optimistic because we know that the humanity is progressing, even if the appearances sometimes would show the opposite. There are, of course, exceptions, actions which are maybe a little bit too much focused now on by the medias, but we know that at the end of all this, there will come a better time with more solidarity, with more fraternity, living together in complement, stopping all kind of violence and discrimination and so on. We know that this will be the future. Whether it will be here on Earth sooner or later, exactly when, we don't know. But for sure, this type of situation, this type of society will come. And we have even the examples from other worlds where there are also humanities, let's say so, albeit not yet proven. We found a lot of exoplanets, but not yet signs of some type of intelligence there. But we know that this is highly probable, and that there are worlds more evolved on the Earth, and that the Earth also will shift to a better world. So this phase gives you strength in order to see, okay, we have this problem. Let's mitigate, let's help the people who are suffering from it. Let's do whatever we can, even if we cannot change the world by ourselves. But we have the strength to do this because we have exactly this phase based on some rationale. And this is very important nowadays. Without this, I don't know how I would withstand all these difficulties we are currently facing on the world.
Absolutely. And I love that you said that, the more that we understand the faith, we become more optimistic. We understand. And I know all of us, like, Júlio, I know you a little bit, a family, children, and we have problems once in a while because that's life. How did faith, or how does faith help you in those hard times, Júlio? Can you add some, personal experience and thinking? Because Charles gave a really good explanation. Let's see.
The importance of faith in our personal life, in our family.
Yeah.
It's what actually gives you your worldview. Your worldview is the way you see life, and that shapes the way you think, and the way you think shapes the way you feel. So if you have a pessimistic perception of life, obviously you're going to feel horrible. And whenever you're facing difficulties, most likely you will fall into a state of despair. What is despair? My belief that my tomorrow will be worse than today.
Yes.
So if I have a different worldview, an optimistic worldview, then whatever I feel is pleasant. And whenever I'm facing difficulty, I will have resilience. What is resilience? It's our ability to be shaken but not break. And that's what faith gives. However, according to the Spiritist body of knowledge, that kind of faith is acquired through knowledge and exercise. Knowledge and exercise. So for those of you who want to read this more in depth, because I and my friend Charles, we make the effort of being good communicators and not magicians, because it's impossible for us to convey so much information in a 3-minute response.
Yes.
Very hard. But
you don't have a magic wand? I thought you had, Júlio. Did you bring Charles' wand that solves all the problems?
So for those of you who wants to get more in depth with this, read the book, the third book of the Spiritist codification, called The Gospel According to Spiritism, chapter 19. And there you find that Allan Kardec, he differentiates religious faith from unshakable faith. So what is religious faith? Religious faith is basically a belief system in which was given to you by family tradition. Charles mentioned that he was Catholic. Most likely his father was Catholic, his grandfather was Catholic, his great-grandfather was Catholic. So he became Catholic by family tradition. And that kind of faith, although it's pleasant, it's not necessarily useful when we most need it. And when do we most need it? When we're facing trouble. So allow me to speak a little bit about my personal life. I worked as a psychotherapist for 12 years in the jail system. And every day I saw 10 minimum of inmates, 10 per day minimum. And these individuals varied according to their religious faith. Muslims, they asked me for the prayer schedule, and I gave it to them. The Catholics, they asked me for the rosary beads, and I gave to them. The Protestants asked me for the Bible, and I gave to them. The Hindus asked me for the Bhagavad Gita, and I gave to them. The Jewish people asked me for the Torah, and I gave to them. Whatever religious paraphernalia they required from me, I gave to them. And why? Because I wanted them to fortify their own faith. However, my take was that if they were praying this much before they actually got arrested, most likely they wouldn't be in jail. So these individuals waited for pain in order to seek God. So they had a label, yet on the most an important moment that we need to exercise faith, moments of difficulty and hardship, they did not use it. And why? Most likely because this was a faith based on family tradition, a religious faith. So Allan Kardec suggests that we should have a faith that it's unconditional, unshakable, which is based on knowledge. In other words, we must understand what we believe in. If we don't comprehend our own belief system, it's just a label that we have, but doesn't serve for anything. So when do we exercise faith? When do we put into practice? Not when things are going well, not when everything in our life is just the way we expect. It's actually on the contrary. It's when I'm facing moments in which I don't like it, they're unpleasant. That is my opportunity to exercise faith. There's no other way for me to exercise faith. I can gain the theory of faith by reading, by listening, and this is what we're doing here in this pleasant communication. However, the exercise of faith can only be done when moments of difficulty, of hardship. And that's where people missed most of the concept of faith. Faith is not given, faith is not received. Faith is developed through practice. So the simplest image we can give, it's about developing your muscle. You can read all the books about lifting muscles. You're not going to get any bigger. You can watch all the movies, all the podcasts like this one, the documentaries. Your muscle is not going to go anywhere. There is only one way that you can develop your muscle, and that's if you hit the gym, and you're not going to pick the lightest weight. Just the opposite. You're going to pick the heaviest. And as you build resistance and you continue with the momentum, it's going to get to a point that 30 pounds will feel easy for you. Then you increase to 35, 40, and so on. So it goes with faith. You develop a little bit of faith. Life gives you hardship. You overcome the challenge, and now you have more resistance. You are gaining momentum, and here comes another hardship, and so on. And that's how we grow the certainty that life is for us and not against us. Everything that happens to us, it's for our intellectual and moral development. Just let me finish by paraphrasing your question. In these moments of turmoil and it seems that everything is going bad, the first thing I would tell that person is be careful what you watch, your source of news, because unfortunately, most of the news today, it's not about informing people, but manipulating people. Is skewing them to think in a certain way instead of giving the facts and letting them decide on their own. So unfortunately, we are living in an age of social engineering, and I'm very concerned with people being fed with this garbage about the world coming to destruction, all this nonsense, that if you have just a little bit knowledge of history, you know that these naysayers and people who foresee the future as being destructive and ugly, it has happened throughout history. If you go back into the 1950s and 60s, the world they predicted for us today are people starving, we eating with one another because there's no food available and all that nonsense. And look, the fact is today, more people dying of overeating than in starvation. So watch the news. Be careful who you watch.
And it goes back to what you and Charles was saying, the reasoning. I always tell my daughter, she says, I have to have faith in Jesus, believe. Just go, no, why? Because I'm saying? And people get shocked when I say this to my daughter. And she says, no, but you have to understand why. Why I follow his teachings. Not because somebody told me, because it makes sense. Because the example about this behavior, the law of love, the law of compassion, the way I want to be treated. So it makes totally sense for me to follow the teachings of Jesus, and I can explain why. Can you? I tell her. Don't just believe because somebody said, you have to have faith and things like that. And that's why Spiritism is amazing. I was also Catholic and raised and respect, and being a Catholic growing up helped me to know so much about the gospel. And I'm very grateful for it and the teachings of Jesus. But once I started with the Spiritism, it just answered all the question, why? I just want to know why as a kid. I say, tell me. And now it goes to the next question, which I believe you two already answered about Spiritism in our life. How is this a force that helps our family, helps us to progress and build that muscle of faith in our homes? Charles, could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, also very interesting. I mean, as Júlio told, faith need to be exercised in order to be strengthened. But instead of strengthening some muscles, we are strengthening neurons or our brain, or in better words, our soul. Our soul understands better these natural laws or divine law, in particular the one who are governing the spiritual realm, which is a reality. It's again a question of faith. Some people do not believe in it. They are materialists. They think nothing exists out of matter. But when we look to the phenomenology, we come to this conclusion that yes, there is, with a high probability, this spiritual realm. So, and with this body of knowledge, Kardec did not stop only by selling this. It's okay. No, we know that there is a spiritual realm. We know that we have a soul. So where does it come from? Where does it go to? So with this, we understand better what a family is, and this has been thoroughly explained through these lives of Sembradores de Luz. Our spirits, we do not meet, form, let's say, husband and wife by chance. Most of these events have been programmed and negotiated even before we incarnate. And the same for the children, the spirits who are incarnating with us. So, which can be very old spirits, and spirits with which we had good relationship or maybe less good relationship, and so on. So all this is brought by the Spiritist body of knowledge, by this reasoned faith, as you told. And by understanding this, it helps us a lot in order to understand the difficulties, in order to understand the challenges. And when you understand better why the challenges and the difficulties, you have, of course, more recourses, more possibilities to think about it in order to react to it in the best possible way for the family as a whole, And this is then this exercising the faith even within our family. And of course, one of the tools for this is also largely explained in Sembradores de Luz live meetings, is to gather sometimes in order to discuss about it, in order to read some good readings, the so-called gospel at home. And this is exactly helping us to understand and to strengthen this faith. And this is really in the interest of all the family members. And it is not a question of forcing one or the other to believe in it or not. It's law of freedom, law of liberty is one of the fundamental laws of the Spiritist body of knowledge. And in my case, for instance, our son came to these meetings. We adapted it in order to make it adapted to his age when he was younger. And now, since he's an adult, he decided not to follow this teaching anymore. So, okay, but some seeds have been put, and I can see that from time to time, the fact to have these seeds spread around is helping him when he is facing difficulties, even though he is not following the teaching, So this shows, in a particular case, how the faith is helping. And one other parallel I would do with the faith is with the spiritual intelligence. It's a notion developed by Dana Zohar and some others, 1 or 2 decades ago. And it's all about this. What is the meaning of your life? Self-awareness. What are we? Where do we come from? Where do we go to? Having a vision of the future, of what we will become, something different than just a grave, put you in a box and finished. Also, having exactly this, how to say, strengths, turn adversity into learning, and all this you manage through this phase. And this is exactly what we can put in practice ourselves, give examples to the family, particularly to the children, and teach them so that it can help them also in their evolution path in this life.
Bernadette?
I don't know if I'm having a little problem with internet cutting.
Oh,
Yes. Hello?
we're
Yes, we
good.
can hear you, yes.
Oh. Hello.
We're here. We
Have
can
the
hear you.
faith that the problem will get
We have
fixed.
some technical problems.
I can see the two of
Well,
you.
if
I
you can
hear
hear
you.
me and anything happens, just keep going.
Okay.
Sorry, guys, internet problems sometimes that happens. And that's what we get when we do live talk here. And thank you, Charles. Amazing explanation. And I remember a time in my life about, it was during COVID actually, something happened. And 6, 7 years ago, and even though with all my studies of Spiritism, I don't know what's going on. I had a little bit of, I said, I'm done. I'm done. No more faith, for me to happen, for that thing to happen. And it was at that time. Are we still having problems?
We
It's
can
coming and going.
reasonably hear
Sometimes we
you.
hear
Yes,
you,
go on.
sometimes we don't.
Yeah.
Júlio,
Yes.
one of our last questions is, okay, I'll put the question here.
How can families nurture and strengthen faith in children? What role does parental example play? And how can faith be developed as a
So,
human
Júlio,
and a spiritual
how
value,
can we,
even in the non-religious
how can
homes?
families nurture and strengthen faith in children?
I've read the
I'm
question
putting
because
the
I did not
question
know
here.
if your internet problem. Okay, so let's continue here. Let's even though we have an internet problem. So if you're listening to us, it's very important for people to understand that we should also have faith in ourselves. It's interesting that when people begin reading the Spiritist body of knowledge, they finally understand the importance of humility, humbleness. But if there is a virtue that is very confusing to understand, it's very hard to put into practice, is humility and humbleness, because people, they confuse humility with being poor, or with being on the street, dressing with rags. For example, if you look at someone who's homeless and then that person is a beggar, you look at that person, you say, look at that humble person. But then you approach that individual and you might ask, sir, can I be of any use to you? Can I help you? That person might look at you and says, get out of here. I don't need anyone. Well, that is evidence of arrogance, because humility is not in your appearance. Humility is a state of mind in which you are aware that you always have to learn. People who are humble, they always grow because they know that they don't know. People who are arrogant, they never learn because they think they know already everything. So, as a father or as a mother, your responsibility is to instill faith in your child. Not only faith in a supreme intelligence of the universe who governs his or her life, but also faith in themselves. This is very important, to believe in our own abilities. Because if you doubt yourself, you're not going to be able to achieve anything. So, a lot of people believe in God. The question is, can God believe in you? Because do you believe in yourself? So, doubting ourselves is not a sign of humbleness, it's a sign of lack of knowledge, because we should believe in our own potential. So, how do we do this in practice? Well, every day we tell our children that they're capable. Whenever we see them having some sort of challenge, we go ahead and tell them, say to yourself, I'm intelligent, I'm smart. And if you keep saying these things to yourself, I'm intelligent, I'm smart, I'm capable, there is no magic that would happen. But instead, whenever you're facing difficulty, you will continue to attempt, you will continue to try. And the process of trying and failing, that's when you exercise intelligence and you definitely become smarter. However, when people doubt themselves, or when children are surrounded by people who failed in their own personal lives, they did not mount to anything. Usually they uh, convey their self doubt to their own children. So they make their own children doubt too. And now that the children doubt themselves whenever they face difficulties, they don't even try. And why? Because they think success is impossible. Someone conveyed that belief to them that it's impossible for you to move forward to succeed. Because look at me, I'm your father and I'm a failure. I'm your mother and I'm a failure. And so it's going to happen with you. So that child is learning that they will fail even before they attempt it. So it's very important that we create the condition, an environmental condition, a house condition in which our children believe in themselves. Now, we have to be careful and not to mix a self-belief with arrogance. There's a very fine line. We want to keep ourselves motivated. We want to believe in our capability, yet we don't want to be arrogant. What is arrogance? Think that we're already there. And what's the problem with arrogance? Well, that's because if I think I'm already there, I would not do the work to get there. In simple terms, let's say I want to be a runner, and then I tell my child, wow, you are already a number one. I could see you already in the finish line. You are victorious. Well, with that kind of statement, the child is not going to put the work in order to practice and become a fast runner, because they already believe that they are a fast runner. No, what we're going to tell them is that, you have the potential. If you exercise, I know you can do it because I've seen you achieving other things. And the child will believe in themselves. And because they believe in themselves, they're going to work. Whenever they find themselves a challenge, they will overcome the challenge because they believe that they are capable of. And so it goes with all human achievements. Before we actually achieve something, we believe that it's possible. And we tell ourselves these self-affirmations, I'm capable, I know I have the potential, I know it's possible, before we actually achieve what we aim for. Now, I'm not sure if you guys are listening to me, because now you're frozen.
Yes,
You're
I
quiet.
fully agree with all what you said, Júlio. I can hear you perfectly. I think Bernadette has still some internet or CPU difficulties. It looks obvious said like this, isn't it, Júlio? But the things which are obvious and simple are sometimes not so immediate to understand. And I would say faith with humility is even strengthening much more your faith, and give you much more power. It looks paradoxal, but it is not. It is like this. In spite and above this, you told it about medicine at the beginning of the life. Stress and to be concerned and whatever is not good for the health. Whilst when you have faith, you are quiet, you are peaceful, and this also brings you health.
Yes, sir. In the beginning, I explained the scientific phenomena of believing the power of medication, which is called placebo effect. So it goes to show that if I believe in myself, I have the placebo effect as well. But most people, Charles, they are not aware of the nocebo effect, NOCEBO, which means if I believe that a piece of medication is actually going to make me sick, I have the physical symptoms of being sick. So the same principle applies in concern with my self-doubt. If I think so low of me, I'm incapable, I'm not smart, I'm never learn anything, then what's going to happen? Whenever I get the opportunity to practice that skill, I don't even try. And it's not that I'm not capable, it's because I didn't try, I never become capable. With my own children at home, I get them to do everything with me. I like to fix cars, I like to fix anything that breaks in the house, and I get my children involved. My daughter, she was only 7 years old, and she was helping me change the oil in my car. Right now, I'm doing some house construction. I got my son; he's only 7 now. My daughter's 12. I got them, with the jackhammer breaking the chimney. I got them screwing things with the nailer gun, and obviously, it's not because I want them to become construction workers. I'm giving them the lesson that whenever they dedicate themselves to anything, they're capable of doing, and that certainty in the belief of themselves will lead them to whatever profession they choose to do it at the best of their capabilities, because it was conveyed to them that they have what it takes for them to be a better version of themselves. And it pains me a lot, Charles, when I see parents who say, so many negative things to children, and the child will actually believe in what they're saying to them. I've done so many couple therapies in the past, and one of the phenomena that happens very common is when the husband leaves the wife and the child, and now the mom of the wife comes to help raise that child. So obviously the wife and now the mother-in-law hates the father for leaving the child. And why did he leave? Because, he was addicted to alcohol. And now because the child looks just like the father, the grandmother, she would say, oh my God, you're going to amount to anything. You're just going to be just like your father or your grandfather. And now the child is only 5 years old. And every day that child is listening, it's being indoctrinated, it's being hypnotized. You're going to be just like your father and your grandfather, just a drunk. Now, what else can we expect from the child? The child will fulfill the prophecy. Everyone keeps telling me, I'm going to just be my grandfather, or I'm going to be just like my father. So let me begin drinking because I need to fulfill that prophecy. So whatever we tell around children is super powerful, and we should refrain the best of ourselves of telling them negative things. However, I want to be very clear about this. You might spend just a couple of hours with your children, but teachers are spending lots of hours, the tablet are spending lots of hours, and most parents have no clue what they are learning or not learning in the school system or from their tablets. I'm not sure if Bernadette or...
I fully agree with what you said, Júlio. Let's now see if Bernadette is managing to give us a nice smile again.
Bernadette.
For some reason, me, I'm having so many problems in charge, and this is amazing topic.
We can hear you, yes.
Oh my goodness. We need to have faith in the internet.
Isn't it?
So I'm so sorry everything that's going on. This is the first time this happens, but having faith that we will move on with this topic, and that everybody that is watching and listen to us learn so much, because I do have faith in the two of you, that you are doing a wonderful job carrying this out. Thank you so much. And now we have just 5 more minutes. And if you would like to say your last, comments, and for people you already practically answered what to do in the terms of challenge, at the school I say to the kids, get a weed, and now we have to say faith muscle. That's my new thing now, Júlio. I love the faith muscle with the children.
I'm not sure if you said we have 5 minutes for
hear me
closing
now?
remarks, but I think you said something about developing the muscles of faith in children, and it's all of us that we have to exercise whenever we are faced with challenges. The Spiritist body of knowledge gives us the certainty that life is not against us, that the supreme intelligence of the universe is not against us. All difficulties are nothing but opportunities for our growth. And that's where the Spiritist body of knowledge gives us so much resilience, because whenever we're faced with difficulties, we see that it's an opportunity for us and not against us. So in conclusion, I know you're just trying to be pleasant about having faith in I and Charles. I know you're just, being friendly by saying those things. But I highly suggest to all of us who are listening to us, please do not necessarily put your faith in human beings, because all of us are fallible. I say it for myself. And this is one of the things I repeat in our Spiritist Center. Please do not come here because of me or someone else or any other speaker that you like. Rather, come here because you have a very strong belief in Christ. You have a strong belief in God and in the natural laws that govern the universe. Because if your belief system is based on an individual, a fallible individual like myself, I am 100% sure I'll give you plenty of reasons for you to abandon your faith. So I do not want you to put your faith in people who are fallible like myself. And that awareness, it's very important for people everywhere, because I'm thankful to say, I'm very glad to say, very happy to say that finally faith is growing here in the US, especially after Charles Kirk was assassinated. The churches are full. It's a phenomena. But before this, the faith in religion altogether was in an all-time high decline. And why is that? Well, that's because people have lots of faith in human being, in a pastor, in some sort of guru. And when that guru just do human things like mistakes, they associate the guru, God, Christ, or whatever religious authority they believe in, and they throw that all in the garbage, and then they lose their faith. And that's something we should not do. Never associate our faith with fallible beings, but have faith in the laws of the universe created by God, demonstrated by Christ through his love.
Perfectly right, Júlio. And this is even another example,
Thank you.
understanding that we are
What
all.
about you, Charles? Do you have any
limitations.
last comments for
Yes,
our listeners and people watching us?
yes, I just started knowing this reasoned faith, knowing that no human is perfect, only God is perfect. It's of course strengthening what Jules just said. We can take opinions of one, we can like another, we can this, we can that, but God has given us the common sense and the capacity of reasoning. If God has given this to us, it's for us to use it and to make our own mind, and then to see where are the strong values. Like Julius mentions Jesus, but it is not exclusively Christian. It can come from any other religious leader who gave a good example in his time. And so it's a kind of universal. And by looking to this example, understanding what is behind, this is then helping us to strengthen this faith and to move to work on ourselves in order to become every day a little bit better than the day before. And in such, like with this, to progress, to make our soul progress towards happiness. And again, it's not a question also exclusively of Spiritism. Spiritism does not require any exclusivity. It's much better to be a materialist or atheist with faith doing good than a spiritist which has a lot of knowledge but which does not do anything. So what's important is not the sticker you have here on your head, it's what you do with it. And that is then what is carrying all the value.
Agreed.
Agreed. Thank you so much. And again, sorry, I don't know what's going on today, but we did it. We did it. And topic, and you were home. Please read about it. Read the Gospel according to Spiritism, and the part that talks a lot about faith, the understanding, the reason. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Júlio. Ask you to wait a little bit before I close.
Thank you so much,
And
Bernadette.
until we meet again.
See you soon.